What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Welborn Show. I'm super excited to be here, and I'm coming at you with a very, very late video about The Batman 2022. It just came out just a couple months ago, and I have some thoughts. And I know that some people have been putting in the comments in some of the other videos that they want to hear my opinion on it. I'm not sure if everyone's going to like my opinion on this movie, but let's go ahead and get started talking about it. I think this movie gets worse the more you watch it. I've watched it a couple times now, and every time that I watch it, I like it less and less and less. And I know a ton of people out there are going to be posting in the comments, asking me to
defend yourself.
I promise you I will. I have my thoughts here. So without further ado, let's dive in. I'll give a full rating of the video of the movie at the end of the video. So here's what I liked about the movie, and that I continue to like as I watch it more and more. Number one is Colin Farrell as the Penguin is incredible. Like, if the guy should win an award just for the way that he looks, because I've watched this movie a few times now and I still can't get myself to believe that that's Colin Farrell. I've tried, and it's incredible what the makeup team did to this dude to make him look like that. Fantastic design, great artwork, and really well done as far as the caricature of the character. I really liked how he portrayed the character. Let's put it that way. I think that it brings a little bit of the video game alive that you don't typically see. And it was a nice, fresh take on it. It was very New York-y vibe and very the Bronx, and I appreciated that. Another thing that I really loved was the Batman's acting. Now I'm going to separate these two. I loved the Batman's acting. I did not like Bruce Wayne's acting. And there is a place in this film where I don't particularly like the Batman's acting either. But it's one scene and I can move past it. But the whole movie, I was really impressed with just how well done a lot of the acting that Batman has to do is eye acting. So the eye acting was just incredible. Really incredible stuff. It's one of the harder things to pull off is eye acting, because it's the hardest to sell. It's the hardest to make somebody believe that you're truly, engulfed in what you're saying or what you're reacting to. And so eye acting is incredibly important, especially for a character that's masked 90% of the time. And so I really appreciated that. I loved how dark and brewy he was, and how intimidating and how piercing he can be once he walks on screen, or that first time you see him when he goes and fights the clown gang. How he commands such presence, and then he beats the crap out of that guy, and he says that I'm vengeance, and it's incredible. It's incredible. And so props to going from Twilight to that. Very impressed by that. Another thing I really loved was the Batmobile. I didn't think I was going to like the Batmobile. In fact, I outspokenly hated the idea of that Batmobile. I thought it looked goofy. I didn't think that it was practical. I still don't really think that it's very practical, but we're talking about the Batmobile. The Batmobile isn't practical anyways. And I really enjoyed it. I liked that it stalled. I liked that it was rough around the edges. I liked that it was an old 60s car. I thought it was fantastic, a fantastic idea. And I actually fell in love with it from the moment that I saw it to the moment that I stopped seeing it on screen. I thought it was phenomenal. I want one really badly. The cinematography was unmatched. It's one of the top cinematography or well-shot films that I've seen to date of the year in 2022. Now, that's not a lot of movies, but the cinematography was fantastic. That noir feeling, that unique approach to shooting superhero scenes that you don't really see very often with superhero flicks. You typically see the same beats, same shots. Ooh, I'm losing camera focus there. The same beats, the same shots, the same everything, right? But I really, really loved how they pieced this together. I really, really, now there's some things that I didn't like, and I'll kind of explain that a little bit later, but I really liked the cinematography. The ambiance, Gotham, just absolutely phenomenal. It was rainy, it was gross the whole time. That's how I think of Gotham. Like, you don't want to live in Gotham. Like, you want to live anywhere but Gotham, because it's just, there's crime. It's never sunny. It's never pretty outside. There's no parks. There's no flowers. There's no, abundance of trees. It's just like downtown New York, and none of the good pieces of downtown New York. And so I thought they did a really great job of depicting that. Remind me of playing the video games. So I really like that. I liked that they did the gadgets pretty well. There wasn't a lot of use of gadgets, but I liked that when they used gadgets, it worked. It worked. I think they could have done, this kind of goes towards some of the acting with Batman. I'm kind of leading here, but I thought they could have done a little bit better with the acting when he was putting on the bat wingsuit. And he definitely should have died, for sure. He was going like 200 miles an hour and he hit a brick wall. He should have gone splat. No questions asked. At least broken significant amounts of bones in his body. In the hand-to-hand combat was phenomenal. He moved great. His suit looked heavy, which I really appreciated. And when he used it to his advantage, you could tell that it hurt. A lot of the problems with superhero movies is like you use your equipment and they just bounce right back up. Like if you watch the first Avengers movie, and Captain America is just like kicking the crap out of people with his shield. And it takes like 3, 4, 5 hits. Like, that guy's bringing superhero strength, and he's bringing vibranium that won't break for anything. And he's hitting you in the head. You're probably dead. It probably shouldn't take you getting up 3 times to get beaten by that thing. It doesn't make any sense. So the hand-to-hand combat, when someone got hit with the weight of the suit, it made that look really, really good. Now, here's my meh. This is the stuff that I go back and forth on. And the reason why this movie gets worse every time I watch it is because the things that I really like about the movie, which are all the pros that I just walked you through, less and less stay on that list. Every time I watch it, I end up taking one of the things that I really enjoyed and moving it to the meh or to the cons list, because I have more time to process it, more time to think about how does this really make sense for the overall thought process around what the Batman is. And every time I watch it, I feel like those things that I really like, I start to like less. And hopefully where I'm at right now is where I end up staying. I don't want to keep watching this and end up moving things. I don't think I'm going to move anymore, but I think this is a pretty solid list. But my point is, a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about from here on out were actually pros at the beginning. I thought they were fantastic. I was like, this is a 10 out of 10 movie. I was on the Batman hype train, right? But what I don't think is fair is to say that this is an amazing movie just because it's better than what we've gotten in the past. Just because it's better than Batman versus Superman, which I think we can all agree on the fact that this movie is better than Batman versus Superman, doesn't mean that it's a good movie. It means that it's a better movie, but just because it's better than trash doesn't mean that it's a 10 out of 10. So I don't think that this hits a 10 out of 10. And we'll get to that in a second. So the mess, the things that I'm okay with, but thought that they could do better. Bruce Wayne, I think, is horrible in this movie. If you can't figure out that this is the Batman, you're dumb. You're a total idiot. When the Batman walks around in a very specific type of way, and then you see Bruce walking, if you were seeing Batman interacting with people, and then you see Bruce interacting simultaneously with people, you can easily tell that this is the same person. There's no differentiating characteristics about Bruce Wayne to where you can justify not being able to figure it out. That's the biggest problem. And it's most evident in the funeral scene, where He looks back the same way. He interacts with people the same way. His voice is the same. His voice inflection is the same. Like, you have to be a total idiot to not figure out that this is Bruce Wayne. And I get that it's, year 2 of him being Batman. He's still trying to figure it out and things like that. I get that. But if you try to compare this to, like, if Batman was in the real world, you would have to try so much harder. You'd have to figure it out so much faster. Otherwise, you would have been caught by now. In the real world, he would have been caught by now. It would have, like, anybody with a pulse would have been able to figure it out at this point. And so I don't really cut the movie slack just because it's his second year. That's over 700 days of being able to figure out that you can't act the same. So the Riddler, I'm indifferent with I used to love the Riddler. I used to have him on my pros list. And then I watched this more and more and more. And he just, the Riddler is supposed to get caught monologuing, but this is getting caught monologuing to an embarrassing degree. You have somebody on the ropes the whole time, and then you blow the whole thing because you draw your plan on the floor. You haven't done anything except to give riddles the whole time. Some of these riddles, Batman's not even getting right, which I did really like, because it makes sense. If you're only 2 years into being trying to be a world-class detective, it makes sense to get some things wrong. But then you just draw the plan at the very end, because if he hadn't drawn that at the bottom, Batman wouldn't have figured it out. He wouldn't have been at the stadium at the end to fight off the mass shooting. He just wouldn't have been there because he wouldn't have been able to figure it out. Batman would have lost. But instead of, I guess you could have left a clue, but you didn't even do that. You just drew the whole plan, and it allowed Batman to slowly figure it out, right? He goes to the cell and confronts him, so on and so forth, which leads me into the one scene that I didn't really love about the Batman, which was the scene with the Riddler in the cell. I liked that the Batman was looking, because he thought that the Riddler had figured it out, which he should have, because if you're claiming to be that smart, you should be able to figure this one out, because it's not very well hidden. But he's looking at the camera like, I'm going to have to delete this later because it's on, everything's on camera, and you can hear the whole conversation. But thankfully, the Riddler hadn't figured it out. He was just talking about Bruce Wayne, from the third party perspective. But I didn't think that the acting of Batman was very good in this scene. I didn't think the eye acting was very good, minus the looking up at the camera, but his wide-eyed stuff looked really bizarre. And I didn't think him hitting the glass, "What have you done?" I didn't think that was very well executed either. It just kind of fell flat. It made me giggle in the theater, and it makes me laugh watching it on my couch. So I didn't think that was very good. So the Riddler and the Riddler's plot, I think, falls flat, especially the end. And I'll get to that in a second, because I really didn't like the third act, which leads me towards some of the length of the film. I think this movie, I like how long it is, because I appreciate long films, because I think most films are too short, but this movie is too long. I've watched it a couple times. I liked originally that this movie was really long, and the more I watch it, the more that I realize that it could have been shorter by just getting rid of the stuff that didn't work, which brings me to the stuff that didn't work. First things first, I did not like Catwoman. Catwoman did not need to be in this movie at all. Her story didn't need to be in this movie. She didn't need to be in this movie. If you wanted to put her in this movie, put her in the movie as like a character at the very beginning that leads into seeing the Batman for the first time. Instead of the clown gang beating up that guy on the subway, it's Catwoman stealing some jewels, and have her get away. Set that up for a different film. But she did not need to be in this movie. I didn't think her acting was very good, which I'm probably going to get a lot of downvotes for. I didn't think her relationship with the Batman made a lot of sense. The romantic relationship, it kind of came out of left field, out of nowhere. In the comics, they're supposed to like each other, but for the first part of it, Batman was showing no signs of being romantically and wanting to be romantically involved. And then out of nowhere, 2/3 in the movie, we're supposed to do like this total 180. I just didn't think it worked. I did like some of her lines, right? The 9 lives line, I liked that a lot. Her motive wasn't very good. She has one of the worst shots I've ever seen. Like, if you can snap that whip with pinpoint accuracy and you can't shoot someone from 10 yards away, I mean, you just shouldn't be a villain, you know, because when she goes to kill Falcone, there's zero reason why she should have missed. and I think she missed like 6 times. I think she went through a whole clip. So horrible. Very disappointed with that. They had a lot of opportunity to be creative with it, and they dropped the ball, in my opinion. Detective Gordon, I didn't really like him. I thought he was fantastic from the acting perspective, but totally useless from a detective's perspective. Totally useless. He just kind of follows Batman around and kind of just blindly agrees, and is just basically there to get him out of sticky situations. So he's more of like a poorly written sidekick, but with good acting chops. And from the perspective of like, I want to see Detective Gordon be who Detective Gordon is, which is someone who commands presence, commands respect, which is partly why he becomes commissioner, is because everybody respects him. Everybody knows that he's the shit. Everybody knows that like he is the guy in the department. I didn't really see a lot of that. It was mostly of just him playing the good cop to Batman's bad cop and just trying to smooth bad relationships over, which I thought was a lost opportunity. John Turturro as Falcone, Don Falcone. All I see when I see him on screen is I just see him talk. I see him and I see Transformers, and I see I think it's Transformers 2, where he's talking about the crazy Transformer Decepticon that's like sitting on top of the pyramid with his balls hanging all over the place. That's all I see when I see him. I don't see intimidating mob boss. I don't see murder at night. I don't see any of that. I just see Decepticons and him talking about testicles. That's all I see. I don't want to see that. It drives me bonkers, and I can't get past it. I try so hard to get past it, but when I see it, I just see comedy. I just see him as a comedy figure from the Transformers movies, which all credit to him. I mean, he's supposed to be a comedy relief character in those movies, but when I see such a jarring switch between that and what he's supposed to be here, it rubs a lot of that same kind of vibe off of being comically serious, and I don't think it works. I'm so glad that they didn't put this in the actual movie, but I didn't like the Joker scene, the Joker deleted scene. Didn't like it at all. Didn't like the look, didn't like the voice, didn't like the acting between both people, and I also didn't think it fit in the movie. But I think the reason why they didn't put it in the movie is because they filmed it, they finalized it, and they realized that it didn't even come close to what Heath Ledger had put together. And so just to save face and to not ruin the movie that they did have, they just took it out of the movie because people were going to freak out, because it wasn't even close to being as good as Heath Ledger. Like, not even by like it's a wide margin. It's not even close. And so if you're going to do the Joker, you better really bring some chops. You better really bring a great performance and also a great reason to have him there. I just didn't think it fit. So I'm very, very glad that they took that out. And last but not least, the third act. Man, I did not like the third act. I loved it from a visual standpoint. I thought it was gorgeously shot. Like I said, the cinematography, perfect. But it didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense from the Riddler's perspective, because the whole mission of the Riddler was to take down corruption, right? It was to drain the swamp, right? Get rid of corruption in Gotham from a political and power standpoint. All that's great. None of that is what the third act is about. The third act is like killing innocent people, drowning people, shooting a mayor that is actually trying to be a good mayor, right? So it's the total opposite of what he's been doing the entire movie. So the third act from the Riddler's perspective makes absolutely no sense. Absolutely no sense. It goes from being calculated and crazy, but with at least with his rationale behind it, to just, being a terrorist, which is not what the whole movie was about. So the third act from that perspective doesn't work for me. But visually, I thought it looked great. Once the dust settles, though, as long as you weren't near where the bombs blew up, where the bombs blew and where the water started, as long as you weren't near there and you're near the center of the city, it's not nearly as bad of a national or a citywide disaster as if you were, near the outside of where those bombs took place. Because at the worst, if you're sitting in the stadium at the end, at the worst, you have to wade through like 3.5 feet of water. So it's not nearly as bad. Now, if you're a citizen over by where the bombs went off, that sucks. You're dead for sure. So hands down, the body count in the third act is insanely high. So to that credit, I did like the fact that Batman doesn't actually win. It's interesting that they tried to spin it that he won, with the hero shot at the top of the stadium at the end and being a symbol of hope and things like that. But he doesn't actually win. Like, thousands of people died. Thousands. And so I don't know why the mayor's talking about this being a big victory and things like that at the very end of the movie, because it's definitely not. It's definitely not. So some of the dialogue doesn't make a lot of sense in that regard. I thought it should have been more clear that he kind of lost. Like, if it's not a win, it's an L with being a hero. If you're a hero, if you don't clearly win, it's pretty much an L. Right. And this is a pretty big, at best, a wash, but it's more of a loss than it is a win for sure. So I didn't like that about the third act either. And the henchmen were like absolutely the worst shots I've seen in a movie in a while. Like, you have a better shot of getting hit with a bullet from Batman the Animated Series, and they don't hit anything, than you do getting hit by these henchmen in this movie. It's atrociously bad. They either hit him, but they shoot anywhere but the face, because I guess they just don't have any like functioning neurons in their brain that says stop hitting him in the armor-plated chest and hit him in the one place that he doesn't have any armor. You have 30 feet on the guy, you might as well give it a shot. Like, if I'm walking around as a henchman and I have a rifle that's got 50 rounds in it, and I put 15 at Batman's chest and it does nothing, I'm going to be like, okay, let me try somewhere else. I'm going to try anywhere, like shoot anywhere. So that hallway scene of him walking down and just getting pampered with bullets, and nobody's trying anything else except shooting him in the one place that's clearly not working. It irks me to the bone. It irks me, because at least with something like Captain America, he's protecting his body. I mean, you should still be able to shoot his feet, but at least there's a little bit of an excuse. There's like no excuse here. There's no reason why Batman should be alive by the end of this movie. He takes so many rounds. It doesn't make any sense as to why no one shoots him in the face. Another thing is, he just took like 100 bullets to the chest. No consequences at all. He gets shot one time in the third act with a shotgun at close range, and he has to pump himself with adrenaline in order to keep going. That doesn't make any sense either. If you can take 100 rounds on repeat in a 10-second span and walk out totally fine, you should be able to take one shotgun shot from 10 feet away. There's no reason why you can't do that. I mean, the machine guns were from 5-10 feet away too. There's no reason why. It doesn't make any sense. And so I liked what he did, though. I liked that it kind of showcased some of those more nuanced gadgets that Batman walks around with. You see that in the animated shows a lot. He walks around with, I don't know, acid that melts chains so he can get out of stuff, little lasers so he can like cut through things, like little tiny gadgets that I really appreciate that often go unused and unnoticed in the films. I like that they use that here, like walking around with adrenaline just in case he needs it is a really smart idea. So props to the filmmakers for putting that in there. It doesn't make logical sense that that would be the reason why he would need to use it. Maybe if the shotgun, like a shotgun pellet had pierced the armor somewhere and like he was really, really poorly injured, that would make more sense to pump himself with some adrenaline to keep going, but he wasn't. And so I think at most maybe he had like a dislocated shoulder or something, but I don't even think it was that. I think it just like put him on its ass. And so I thought that could have been done better. And then the very end of, this whole movie has been vengeance. He's just been beating the crap out of people. Both bad guys and good people are both afraid of him. And he realizes he needs to be more of a symbol of hope. And so he does one thing, which is sacrifice himself. And does it kill him? No. They make you think that he dies for less than 3 seconds. Then he gets up and he's totally fine. And then everybody just sees him as a hero. And I have a hard time buying that people who have been deathly afraid of this person for 2 years, like he doesn't really have a lot of fans. Okay, they make that pretty clear in the movie. He doesn't have a lot of fans. Bad guys, villains, criminals, they all despise him. They're all afraid of him, but so are good people. And so for him to turn that whole expectation and to turn that whole, persona around in less than 5 minutes is hard for my brain to get on board with. And so he leads the group out of the water to more water. He leads them from one end of the building to the other. It's not much of a rescue, but he lights that flare. He saves the people who weren't in any real serious immediate danger. Obviously, they're in a flooding building, but they didn't really need Batman to save them. They could have just walked out of the building because it was only 50 yards away. They could have just done that themselves, and he didn't really move any rubble to get them out of that situation. They were already kind of free to move around, so he was kind of useless anyways. So I just didn't think that the weight of that scene was really reached. I thought the thought process was there, and you can see the thought process at work. I just think it falls flat on the execution and the gravitas of the whole thing. And so overall, when I first watched this movie, I was a 9 out of 10 on this movie. My wife is still a 10 out of 10. She loves this movie. I'm no longer a 9 out of 10. Like I said, I don't think that this is a perfect movie. I don't think that it's the best Batman that we've ever seen. I think it's a good, solid Batman. It's certainly better than Batman versus Superman, but I don't think it's the best Batman we've ever seen. And I don't think it's even by a close margin. But I don't think that this is just an average flick either. So I definitely think this is above average. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being is like, this movie is unwatchable, right? 10 being this is a perfect film. Perfect doesn't mean flawless. It's so good that you can overlook the flaws. I think that this is a solid 7. And I think that's a fair rating. Like if you're going to be honest with yourself about the movie and like really go through this bit by bit, take your time, rewatch it, compare your notes, think about a video like this, watch some other videos on YouTube, think about this movie from other perspectives and other angles. I think that you would be I would venture to guess you would agree with me. It's going to be a 7 or an 8 for you as well. If you're just one of those people who are like, oh, it's a 10, it's a perfect movie, you're an idiot, then, I mean, why even watch this video? But if you have an open mind and you're open to some different perspectives, I would encourage you to listen to this video and reflect on maybe your opinions on some of these main topics, main points, and see if you agree with me. Because if you do, I would venture to guess you're somewhere in the 7 range as well. I think this is a solid movie. I think you should definitely watch it. If you haven't seen it yet on HBO Max, you should definitely watch it. I think it's still in some theaters as well, still at the theater near me. And if you haven't seen it in theaters, I definitely think you should, because we should see more movies like this. We should see more superhero movies that are not just the typical superhero equation, right? you know, the superhero arc is you have the calling, you refuse the calling, you accept the calling, but you have your challenges, you overcome the challenge, you become the hero. That is the superhero arc. Okay, it sells in pretty much everything: marketing, sales, business, movies. People like the superhero arc, but I really love it when people deviate from that. The Watchmen, it's a great movie. Zack Snyder. I think this is a good movie. And I like those movies. They don't just follow the arc. And so I appreciate this movie for what it was trying to do, which is to be the darkest Batman, most brooding Batman, the most inner turmoil Batman to date. I think that really hit. I think they tried to do that with a little bit of Batman versus Superman with Ben Affleck, but the mark was missed a little bit there, mostly because the movie was rushed and a lot of the main beats just steamrolled over some of the smaller beats. But I think that they did a better job with this, and I really appreciated the detective side of Batman from this movie. But it's not a perfect movie by any means. There's a lot of things that I have problems with that keep this movie from being an 8, 9, 10 for me. Okay, now will I watch it? If it's on, if I got nothing else to watch, for sure. But if I have the choice between my Batman movies, I'm going to always pick the Nolan series before I pick this one. Unless I'm in the mood for a very particular vibe, you know. But even if I was in the mood for a particular vibe, I'd probably watch Keaton's Batman before I'd watch this one. I think that's more nostalgic at this point for me, because that's not a great movie if you really break it down. It's more nostalgic for me, but I would probably enjoy that one more than I would this one. But it's right up there in my top 3. You know, I really think that this is much better than what they were able to do with Ben Affleck in the movies that he was in, which it's not to discredit Ben for a really good performance. I thought he did the best with the material he was given. They just didn't do him justice with his writing and with the way that they portrayed the character. But I thought he did the best that he could. But I'm still a hardcore Nolan fan. I like those Batman movies the best, but this is a solid 7 for me. So let me know in the comments below. Maybe you hate what I had to say about this movie. Maybe you think this is the best Batman flick of all time. And I would love to have that discussion with you. If you feel like this is the best Batman movie of all time, let me know in the comments and let's talk about it. Let's get that dialogue going, and I will see you in the next video. As always, you can check out more videos right now. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And always feel free to post your thoughts, because I like to talk about it. Talk soon.